Okay, let's do it.
All right. How about that for a new intro? Woohoo. Spicing it up on Monday. Who's got a case of the Mondays out there? It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from South Central Texas. Otherwise known as Austin, where they're keeping it weird 24/7. Austin isn't weird anymore. Austin is trading in on its keep Austin weird image. It's become the Fisherman's Wharf. The Fisherman's Wharf of the music business. I guess Nashville and maybe Branson, Missouri might also be kind of involved in that titular title. Anyway, what's happening out there? It's Monday, and we are on the other side of that crazy Sagittarian moon that popped up the other day, and now we're on the back side of the Capricorn. Let me just make sure. Let me check here. Just want to make sure we're all systems go astrologically. I don't want to lead you astray. It's not my role. I am a shepherd that will not lead you astray. We got a 25-degree Capricorn moon, which means tonight, during the NBA Finals, the moon should be in Aquarius, which would, if they were to play yesterday, the moon would have favored LeBron James, probably as much as the refs favored LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. That spectacle on Friday night was horrible, and I mean horrible. Let me just do something here. Let me just turn that down a little bit. There we go. Turn that down, turn that up. Yeah, the spectacle was horrible. I was watching the game, and clearly the refs had inserted themselves. And when you watch a game with a 13-year-old kid who sees that the game is rigged, and you've got a lot of explaining to do. You know, and this is the awakening of my son as he watches sports which he loves dearly, loves to play them, loves to watch them, loves to participate in them. And watching the refs put themselves in that game when they really didn't need to, because Cleveland was hitting everything. I mean, LeBron James could have been shooting from the hot dog stand on the second level, and the ball would have been going through. It was unlike a shooting spree, unlike anything I have ever seen before. I wonder why they were so good. Khloe Kardashian was in the house. Maybe that's what it was. Witch power. Kardashian witch power. Khloe Kardashian in a relationship with Tristan Thompson of the Cleveland Cavaliers. A little Illuminati hookup. I think Khloe Kardashian is basically sleeping her way through the NBA, team by team, one player per team. I think that's her goal. And if not, she's tag teaming with her sisters, Kim, who's had a couple of NBA players herself. It's what they do. It is what they do. So anyway, tonight the moon will be in Aquarius versus the cool detached Capricorn moon, and there are a couple of Aquarian players on the Golden State Warriors, Andre Iguodala being one of them. He could have a big game tonight. Big game. But Golden State has a lot of Pisces players, and the Sun in Gemini does not favor a lot of their Piscean players, of course, because it squares their Piscean players. And they've got a couple of Virgo players as well. Sean Livingston, David West. So these mutable planets aren't really helping them all that much. So it's been an interesting weekend for sure. There's always things going on. I've got a little piece on Katy Perry I'm going to play here, and it has to do with what looks like, for all intents and purposes, her MK Ultra breakdown. It's happening. It's happening for Katy Perry. One of the things that you can all set your watch with is when these MK Ultra beta kittens cut their hair. Because when they cut their hair, they don't want to be that person anymore. Now, Britney Spears was interesting because, of course, she did the haircut, but she was always Britney Spears. She was never Britney Lion, right? She was always Britney Spears. So when she cut her hair, it was, and if you remember back that far, it was really disturbing. And a lot of people didn't know what was going on. I knew what was going on. Her programming was breaking down. She was expiring. I'm surprised she's still alive. A lot of these MK Ultra beta kittens that outlive their usefulness usually die. And who knows? Maybe she was replaced. I don't know. The replacement trip does happen. There's a lot of talk about Tiger Woods and his Xanax trip. Well, first of all, Tiger Woods was completely controlled. We've talked about this on the show before. His father was very deep into the military, not just deep into the military, but from a psychological aspect. He had double degrees in psychology, and he was based out of San Francisco. And I don't have the dots to connect them up, but I'm pretty sure that he was connected to Michael Aquino, and Michael Aquino is the high priest of the Temple of Set and a high-ranking official in the military. And Michael Aquino is one of these guys that has invested a lot of energy and time and money into psychotronic warfare, which is basically controlling people's minds. So Aquino's in San Francisco. He's over at the Presidio. Tiger Woods' dad is stationed out of the Presidio. I mean, so can you see the kind of connections? You watch Tiger Woods on the Mike Douglas show, and who's on there with Earl Woods? None other but Bob Hope. Bob Hope being one of the biggest handlers of all time. So Earl Woods was Tiger Woods' handler, and he was an experiment. And then when Earl Woods died, Tiger did not have the same kind of access to his own codes. So he was lost. He became engaged in the abuse of Xanax because of what happens now, you see, is that the memories begin to surface. And then the pain begins to surface. And once the memories and the pain begin to surface, people want to get rid of them. That's what happens. Let me just turn up my volume here a little bit so I can hear myself a little bit better. And turn this up, get a better level. So this is what happens. Now, of course, we had that fateful Thanksgiving evening. That was, around 2011, I believe, where Ellen Nordgren took a club to Tiger's head, or putter to his head, or sandwich. I don't know what she was teeing off with him on. But, if I tracked that, I was tracking that real time. And Tiger, I'm convinced to this day that Tiger never made it out of that. Convinced. There were so many bizarre pieces to all of that. Of course, you never see Ellen anymore. Rarely do you see Tiger's kids. Very strange stuff. And when Tiger finally reappeared on the scene, he was a robot. So why don't I just play you this Katy Perry piece, and then we're going to get into the sort of the rest of the show, some of which we'll do a little truth uncovering, and then we're going to talk about what I posted on Facebook yesterday is what happens after conspiracy theory. And there's some things here that that are tangential to this that I'm going to share with you that are important to kind of go over. All right, so I'm going to play this. I'm going to turn up the volume. This is not a file I downloaded. This is from Katy Perry's Instagram account, and this is what's going on with this young woman. Here we go.
It's okay, Catherine. I guess that, I'm really strong as Katy Perry.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm not as strong as Catherine Hudson, and
Catherine doesn't have to be strong.
But, people talk about my hair, right?
Yes.
badly want to be Catherine Hudson that I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore sometimes. And like that is a little bit of why I cut my hair, is because I really want to be my off.
It's okay, Catherine.
I guess that like, you know, I'm really strong as Katy Perry.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm not as strong as Catherine Hudson, and like,
Catherine doesn't have to be strong.
but you know, people like talk about my hair, right?
Yes.
And they don't like it, or they wish that like it was longer. And like, I so badly want to be Catherine Hudson that I don't even want to look like Katy Perry anymore sometimes. And like, that is a little bit of why I cut my hair, is because I really want to be my off.
It's okay, Catherine.
I guess that like, you know, I'm really strong.
There you go. There's Katy Perry, confessional time. She's basically saying she's over being Katy Perry. She wants to be Catherine Hudson. And the duality is breaking down inside of Katy Perry. One of the other things that Katy Perry is going through is Katy Perry is 34 years old. Well, she'll be 34 in October 25th. She'll be 34 years old. She's no longer a girl. And this is a woman, young woman, who's, caged, really, truly caged, and comes from that kind of weird, programmed Christian background, and she just wants to have a real life now. She just wants to revert back to who she was before it all started. And the haircut is the key. Carrie Patey's confessional weekend. Katy Perry felt ashamed over suicidal thoughts. Katy Perry says John Mayer was her best lover, and Josh Groban is the one that got away. Okay, so we're seeing these confessionals almost as if the life of Katy Perry is coming to an end. This is really interesting stuff. So how does it relate to how we move beyond conspiracy theory? Well, first of all, whatever you think of Katy Perry, this is a young woman or woman who probably did a lot of what she's done, which is pimping and primping for the great horned goat, the great horned one, the Luciferic interests, and largely probably with not a lot of her will intact. And the areas where she was consciously and willfully participating in this experience is probably sold to her as being cool, new agey, all about the light, and everybody's got the light within. All that. It all sounds really good, right? And remember that Russell Brand was her husband for a while, also known as her handler. Russell is a master in neuro-linguistic programming, absolute master. And he often had that very bored look that George Clooney has with Amal Clooney. But that's a whole other thing aside. So she's breaking down. Katy Perry's breaking down. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is not just because of the breakdown that she's going through. Now, they may put her back together again, and they may take her to someplace in Los Angeles where she gets reprogrammed, and they get another 2 to 3 albums out of her and all these concert sales, and because she's really a cash machine. In a lot of ways, they can't afford to dump Katy Perry as long as she's a cash machine. But if you look at her, she's looking older. She is going to lose her youth appeal. And she appeals to a younger audience, and I just don't see them growing with her. So she is becoming a bit of a problem to the music industry. Because if you really watch what happens with artists, they never grow up. They never evolve. They never mature. There's always some newer, younger, prettier, flashier, funkier artists, or whatever they're called, I'm not sure they're artists, that are willing to step up. We don't see the evolution of artists. We don't see them maturing. I mean, just because Miley Cyrus hangs out with Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips while he's having a midlife crisis doesn't mean she's maturing just because she's working with the Flaming Lips. It doesn't mean that. Maturing is if you watch an artist, a real artist over a period of time, they grow, they evolve, they have some challenging moments, and it's all there. It's generally part of the record, unless they're just pure pop stars, in which case it's just, punching buttons and doing a gig. So she's becoming a problem for the music industry, a liability, big time liability. The reason I'm bringing this up too is because of what happened, and this is where we get into more like what's next, what's after conspiracy, and we sort of started that a little bit on Friday. And by the way, I really want to thank people who sent me some emails on Friday and after Friday about the show and how much they liked it. There was one person who sent me an email who told me about, I think it was a friend of hers or somebody. It was this theory that there was this vampire wave intercept that intercepted sort of this timeline that we're in now. And I think that that's probably pretty true. And that what's happening is that every cycle of incarnation and every new decade in time, there's less and less energy and spirit and chi associated with this domain until it completely runs out. And at which point in time, the vampire energy runs out as well because it's essentially eating everything up. And I agree with that because there is a parasitic energy on this planet, and we have to be really careful of it. Really, really careful of it. So it made a lot of sense, and that kind of kicked into the RAM or the lack of RAM theory. So I posted on Facebook that basically where we are now at this point, because it's there are really serious people out there doing serious work to try to understand the nature of reality here and how it was created and who continues to create it and what iterations are created and why we're living in this reality matrix as it is. There's a lot of really good researchers out there. But what prompted my piece on Friday and my show on Friday and my piece yesterday on Facebook is that we're getting into this increasing sort of area which is becoming more claustrophobic, and it's the echo chamber. And we're basically repeating all these talking points and bullet points, which seem to be created in some ways, so that we have this stable of, well, there's this and there's that, and he's got the hand over the eye. And I mean, all these things mean something. Don't get me wrong. They mean something. But the clearest case around all of this is what's happening with Seth Rich, or what's not happening with Seth Rich. I don't think there's anybody out there, that includes George Webb, by the way, who I'm not really sold on. He said he worked for the Mossad. That's true. It's on one of his videos. He admitted that. Do with it what you will. But even with George Webb, I mean, where is the revelation, the dark revelation? Where's the smoking gun? He's kind of kludging and pulling, and there are other people kludging and pulling. Of course, there's the testimony of the intern or the guy that was there watching it all happen. Well, where is that guy? How come he hasn't come forward? How come he hasn't wound up in a dumpster somewhere? It's almost as if the talking points have been created so that people now have this echo chamber, and our points of view are ricocheting back and forth inside the echo chamber. And that's not to say that there isn't new evidence. There aren't new things that we are and should be aware of. But at some point, it feels like we're being herded into this cul-de-sac. And when I get herded into a cul-de-sac, I'm not real comfortable. And I don't think other people are. So the question then became, well, what do we do now? There's plenty of stuff on the table. I'm going to talk about James Wesley Howell today, which is kind of an interesting point to all of this, because it is a talking point that is not being covered, and we have to ask ourselves why. And I'll get to James Wesley Howell in a moment. But one of the things that came out was this whole notion around love and intention and perception and what you resist persists. And, all these aphorisms, which to some degree are actually quite good. But in other areas, they're just kind of, trite cliches that are looking to be reanimated for this time, this period that we're in. And I think that there's something there, but we also have to have something more. So one of the things we have to be careful of and just be watchful of is when we look at an event like what happened in Manchester. And then we have people like Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus and Robbie Williams and, Take That. And all of these artists show up and it becomes this kind of one love fest. It becomes all about love and all about being together and just broadcasting this, all the way across the internet because people could see it and people that were there. And this becomes the new message, right? This becomes the new religion. You see, we have to, because in a very odd way, they're kind of hijacking the next level already, right? So what they've done is they've truncated the talking points and put everything in an echo chamber. Now, there are things that people won't talk about, and we'll get into some of that today with this James Wesley Howell. But they're also basically creating this sort of simulacra. This is what I call the Dark New Age. And this event where they have all the youth, generally, Robbie Williams is probably 40 years old, if not more by now, but this is where they're implanting this new paradigm. And yeah, love is really important. It's an important force. I'm not an expert on it, but it's an important force. It's a thing that it binds things together, right? It binds things together. Binds true relationships together. It binds, our connections with plants and animals and all those things. But what they're doing and what they've done in other events, let's go back to last year in Columbia, South Carolina, where Dylan Roof supposedly shot a bunch of people in a church, which I don't believe at all. I don't believe anybody died in that church. Sorry. But within 24 hours, we forgive him. We forgive him. We were taught about love. Just love, 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 love. Love conquers fear. It's just like, you kidding me? And these people were talking like they were robots. I forgive him. We forgive him. Just like that guy in Cleveland that died. The old dude who got supposedly killed on Facebook, which never happened either. The family of the old guy who got kidnapped. Oh, we forgive, we love. We forgive, we love. This is the refrain. And this is where they're hijacking this next level, right? They're hijacking the next level. And Katy Perry, who was a born-again Christian at one point in time, kind of a figurehead, but a figurehead now who's breaking down and deconstructing. So let's talk a little bit about this other piece, and which is why this whole notion of conspiracy theory or alternative research or whatever you want to call it has its severe limitations. Now, a year ago on June 12th, we had an event in Orlando, Florida. Remember Omar Mateen? Omar Mateen, whose father showed up at Hillary Clinton's rally. Well, there was another event that was going to take place during that time, and it was going to happen at the Pride Parade in Santa Monica. Okay? And James Wesley Howell was supposed to carry out kind of this bookend, very Gemini-like, right? East Coast, West Coast, Florida, California, slaughter massacre of the gay community. But James Wesley Howell figured out what was going on. He figured out he was being set up. Let me just tell you what he had on him. This is what they found. He had 25 pounds of shock shot. Now, this is an explosive that's used for blowing up targets by high-velocity bullets, okay? And it's most likely to cause a widespread panic inside of a crowd. Shock shot also creates smoke, and there can be a lot of confusion. The two components that are needed to make the shock shot explosive had been mixed, so they were ready to go. He also had an Anderson Manufacturing AM-115 .223 high-velocity round caliber rifle. The rifle had a round in its chamber, so it was ready to go, and additional rounds in a 30-round magazine attached to it. And had another 30-round magazine that was taped to the rifle, so he had 60 rounds of bullets that he could fire off. He also had a 30-06 bolt-action rifle with a round in the chamber. He had a high-velocity .22 caliber Ruger semi-automatic pistol. He was loaded. He was locked and loaded. He turned himself in, and he has been on ice ever since. Now, what's interesting, and I'm reading this some of the information off Henry Metcalf's site, nobody in the alternative news or the quote-unquote conspiracy theory realms are even touching this guy. Alex Jones won't talk about him. Jeff Rentz won't mention him. David Icke, who probably has, bigger philosophical fish to fry. Kevin Barrett, he's not touching him. G. Edward Griffin isn't touching him. Gordon Duff, American Free Press. Nobody is taking on this story. And this is the smoking gun. This is where a guy who has been part of a false flag is actually alive. And where are the conspiracy theorists? Where are the alternative news people? Well, guess what happens? They get shut down. They had some websites shut down. There are people who were talking about him, and they stopped talking about him. So this guy is radioactive. Totally radioactive. And there may be some version of mind control also with James Wesley Howell. So who knows? Who knows? Which brings us to the question. If Gordon Duff, Jeff Rentz, Alex Jones, Paul Joseph Watson, Michael Rivero, and hundreds of other websites, which includes, by the way, Russia Today, which had somebody from Russia Today, a high-ranking corporate head at Russia Today, died yesterday in Washington with a heart attack. But why aren't these guys digging in? So the answer is perhaps they're all compromised. Perhaps. And that they're just there to become gatekeepers and herd people into the echo chamber of the cul-de-sac where the talking points ricochet like bullets in a safe. So I wanted to just kind of go over a few of these things because, number one, we got a smoking gun here. We've got people inside of the alternative media, inside of the so-called truth movement, inside of the conspiracy theory realm, and they're not touching this at all. Like, you would think that they'd be all over this, and because if they're looking for the smoking gun, it is James Wesley Howell. End of story. And then we have the simulacra of the New Age, which is sort of the answer for kind of, where we want to go, what we want to do post-conspiracy theory, because we can understand and see where both are controlled. right? I mean, it looks very clear to me that both of these areas are controlled. And what we're really doing our best is to break out of this control matrix. And there is a fellow on Facebook who seems like a really good guy and very turned on and, excited and passionate about what I wrote. And he said that it's easy to do it. You just like that. And I'm like, well, if it's that easy, then it would have been done. It would have been done already. Because there are very distinct periods in history where people were waking up. And then some event would come in, and then it would shut down the process, which we've talked about before quite a bit. You can start with the Black Plague, and you can go all the way to 9/11. Right? So what do we do? What's this new thing? Well, this is what we want to explore. This is what we want to dialogue with. Because we're armed with a certain level of awareness. And by the way, I don't think we just walk away from discerning and peeling these layers away. I think they're really important. But we have to look at this from a dietary perspective. If that's all we're eating, like if we're just eating nothing but, no matter how good it is for you, let's say it's kale and conspiracy theory, alt news, truth is kale. And that's all we're eating. And if all you're eating is kale, no matter how good it is for you or how seemingly good it is for you, you're going to be deficient. You're going to be deficient. Reminds me of that story of, what's his name? Billy Bob Thornton, who was living in Los Angeles, trying to become an actor. And because he couldn't afford a lot of food, he worked at this restaurant. It was like some fast food joint or whatever. And all he ate was French fries. All he ate was French fries for like 3 months. And he came down with this kind of really weird disease, and it knocked out his immune system. And he had to stop eating French fries and actually eat other food. So what we're trying to do here is create supplements or supplement our diet. And maybe that's a good place to start, what we put in our bodies. I really love the people that listen to this show. They are very, very helpful and very kind. And one of the listeners, Alexandra, reached out to me yesterday. And, in the middle of a Sunday, she's with her husband, she's with her son, their child. And it's like, hey, we want to talk to you about staying healthy. And this is what we found out. It was like amazing, It's like, this is where it's at. So they her and her husband, who was really cool, a very smart guy, talked about the repeat diet, which I had never heard of before. And they talked about vitamin K, K1, which is a really essential vitamin, which helps with the processing of calcium in the body, which we don't do a very good job of, apparently. And I thought in that moment where they reached out to me that we had at least two pieces to all of this, to this new level, right? Number one, there was communion, that we were talking. We weren't texting. We were talking. How about that? And I so appreciated that. I loved talking on the phone as a kid. It was one of my favorite things. I used to talk to my father for hours. He was a great listener, by the way. And then the other piece was the body. It's like here are all these things. We're going through all of these things. Our bodies are being challenged at every single turn. And here's some ideas that might help you for the body. We talked a little bit about bulletproof coffee and this repeat diet and getting clean and getting functional and optimal, where there's more energy, not just losing weight, but more energy, right? And what's unfortunate is that there's, groups of people out there who are really financially stressed out. And it's hard. It's really hard to live a healthy life when you're financially stressed out. And I don't have an answer for that yet. Maybe at some point. But at some point, and this is the some point, is that we are going to have to address the economic piece. And we'll have to address the economic piece as it relates to the spiritual piece. And I think the two are congruent. But it was in that moment where somebody reached out and said, hey, we want to shoot you some information. It was the communion piece and it was the information piece. So this is where we are, and we have to start building these things. We have to start building these invisible networks with one another. And it takes time. I know the world is crazy, but there are a lot of people that have made connections through my Facebook page and through some of the various things that I do, like readings with people. And it's not impossible. It is not impossible. So we have to fortify and strengthen ourselves. That's really the first step. Another guy on Facebook, Bobby Ledford. I really like this guy. This guy is committed to truth, right? He's like, man, we got to get these reptiles out of here. And I agree. I totally agree. But again, if we're looking at it from the body perspective, if you have a strong immune system and you've got a strong gut, you've got all these things that are really solid, then the parasites that we live with all the time, they don't have as much sway and power over us. And it's just the way it is. We can get into the realm of Morgellons and all the other stuff that a lot of people are struggling with, or the phantom sort of malady known as Lyme disease, which a lot of people have. These are very serious things. They're very, very important pieces here. And that really the next step is to be physically fit. That is it right there. That is the next step. So we've got to take this one step at a time to be physically fit. And I've been working on it my own way. I've been seeing a chiropractor. Back's in a better place. What happens when we become physically fit? Now we can adapt and adjust to conditions around us. What's better, a healthy pack or an unhealthy pack? It's going to be the healthy pack. It's going to be the pack that thrives and survives. So that's really ground zero. And the other part is not just the nutritional piece, but also the emotional piece, where we aren't as isolated as we think, and we can connect with one another. This is where we're building the new foundation. Now, do we abandon the ship and say, we're not going to look at what's happening in the realm of conspiracy? And no, that's not necessarily true. But we have to shift the emphasis. We've got to start to move away. And it's not like a regurgitation of the New Age. You see, Corey and David are trying to do this. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to implement a program that can help people. Hey, whatever you think of Corey and David, it's up, it's on you. It's your thing. I've spoken about it. I've talked about it. I don't think there's. I think they're on shaky ground, but I also think that the people that are going after them are shaky ground people to begin with. So, not all of them. I've stated my case about Randy, but even in that realm, that's what they are trying to do. They're trying to give people tools because we're at a place now where we need them. It's really important. Really important. Some of the economic factors are looking like about 18 months out that there could be a collapse in the housing market again. Wouldn't surprise me. We're coming into Saturn in Capricorn. And we're coming to, it's like Saturn's like a train. And it's about ready to pull into the station. It's going to take on, a new set of characters, a new set of travelers. And Saturn in Sagittarius has been about truth. It's been about working hard to get to some immutable, even though Sagittarius is a mutable sign, some immutable truth. And it's been very hard because we found that Saturn has created a cube. And inside of that cube is the dialogue that's been taking place over time. Oh, man. Yeah, for some reason, Justin, thanks, Justin. Justin's a listener out in Denver, and he just commented that it's good to have me back on the air from YouTube. Well, the only reason I'm back on YouTube is because Spreaker stopped sending my videos to YouTube, so I have to do that manually. Now, there's no conspiracy in there. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy there. There's no conspiracy there. Or maybe there is. Anyway, this is food for thought. This is food for thought, and this is what we need to build on now. Okay, tomorrow, we'll try and make another attempt to add a little bit of sustenance to your morning and your day so that you can go forward and move forward in health and creativity so that you can prepare for something like a housing downturn about 18 months out. And you can have the energy. You can have the stamina. You are going to be in the moment. And that's what it's all about. All right, let's put a wrap on today's fine episode. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix. Use your head to discern what's real. Your heart to stay open to what's possible. Here's our outro, our new outro for the show. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you like it or not. I'll see you here 24 hours from today.
Okay, let's do it.